Alright, welcome back everyone, it's Garley. I'm bringing you another Neverwinter video, and today we are going to be releasing the mod 12.5 Temptation Warlock build, also known as the Templock. Now I know I've said in the past that I would never play a Templock, so full disclaimer, I do not enjoy playing the Templock. I play the Warlock strictly to be a DPS class. However, Cryptic seems to be turning the Warlock into a support class. Yes, we are getting some DPS buffs in the upcoming Module 13. However, the buffs coming to the Templock, as it looks right now, are going to far outweigh the DPS aspect of this class. Most likely all Warlocks, unfortunately, are going to have to go the Templock route. There's going to be some new buffs coming to the Templock that are just going to make it far superior than actually running the DPS spec anymore. So, although I highly disagree with this decision, I do not enjoy the Templock. It's just the way the game is progressing, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and release the 12.5, and when Mod 13 comes out, we'll get a new build up for that as well. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. We're going to start with the gear. You're still going to run full primal. You can run some different items from the hunts if you choose to maximize a little more power. The whole point of the Templock is to basically be supportive to the group. Now, I did run Tomb of the Nine Gods on both my DPS specs as well as the Templock, and there's no real difference. We're talking about endgame groups here that can do the dungeon within 20 minutes, 21 minutes, 22 minutes. There's no real time difference. The only thing the Templock is doing currently is giving the group more survivability, which is its main role and job as a supportive class. You're going to be basically healing the group non-stop. If you're not taking top healing spot on the charts, then you're doing something wrong. So what the Templock does is simply, as much damage as it does, it converts that into healing for your allies. Now, it does also provide some buffs. You're going to be providing about 30 to 35% additional DPS to whatever DPS is in your party. So it is a healing slash, buff role. Now, like I said, is there a big difference between the Templock and running full DPS? Not in my eyes and not from what I've seen. Certain situations I was able to cut down dungeon runs by like a minute, but does a minute really matter? Probably not. So we are going to run the full primal for right now. We're also going to be utilizing the relic set. Your 4-piece artifact is not really going to matter. I still choose to run Sigil of the Devoted to non-stop cast your dailies. You have to run the Orcus for the 3-piece set. And then your other 2 artifacts, you simply need to maintain your statistics. Remember, guys, you need at least 80 to 85% armor penetration for Tomb of the Nine Gods. So you want to make sure that you're maximizing your statistics. You need to get at least to 100% crit or as close as you can, as well as that 85% armor penetration mark. And then you simply want to stack power after you have maxed out those other stacks. So we are currently using the Kessel Sphere for the power armor pen, and then I choose to use the power crit for Sigil of the Controller. Now, as I mentioned, we're using the Orcus 3-piece set. Nothing has compared to it thus far. So that's going to be your artifact, your belt, as well as your necklace. Now, your rings don't really matter, to be honest, but I'm going to run the Beast Slayer +5 for the crit recovery, as well as the Undead Slayer. Now, the Undead Slayer I'm running for the +5% damage against undead. Almost everything in Tomb of the Nine is classified as undead. There is a couple other mob types in there. However, that 5% damage is going to outweigh mostly everything else. We are going to be using the new shirt and pants set coming from mod 12.5, and that's the Shultent Merchant set. As far as your weapon enchantment goes, I choose to go with the Fey Touched. your armor enchantment, you can basically use whatever you want. I'm still running a negation. However, you can run a bark shield, you can run a soul forge. That is strictly up to you. We're going to be running all-consuming curse, as well as Essence Defiler, which is wrong. My mistake. You're actually going to be running either Hellish Rebuke or Hand of Blight on this. The only reason I have Essence Defiler on here is because I run my relic set with my Soulbinder DPS build. So that's going to wrap it up for the gear. We're going to jump right into the build now, so if you want to pause the video at any time, please feel free. We're going to take 5 out of 5 for the curse for the AP gain. We're going to take the additional crit, however you can take the HP, that's strictly up to you if you want to maximize your HP if you already have enough crit chance. We're going to take 3 out of 3 for more encounter power damage. We're going to take 5 out of 5 for determined casting to reduce our cooldowns by 10%. Now, you can cut this down to 2 and place the 3 into here, but I can't justify the 3% lifesteal for encounter cooldowns. You should have enough lifesteal to maintain basically non-stop proccing your lifesteal. I think I'm currently at 40% lifesteal, which is a little high. Anything over 30% and you're going to be fine. And then I'm going to take 3 out of 3 for crit severity, and then 4 out of 5 for blood pack for that additional damage. We are still running human. Now, however, you can choose to run Tefling for the racial bonus on the Tefling. I am still currently running human for the extra bonus damage from Constitution. Moving into the build itself, we're going to take Hope Stiller for the lifesteal. We're going to take Hellish for the 5% more, or I'm sorry, 5% less damage from Hellish Rebuke on mobs. And then, of course, Dark Reverie. This is going to be one of the buffs you're going to be giving to your party. It's 20% power. And basically, this has 100% uptime because on the Templock, you're going to be casting your lifesteal pretty much all the time. We're also going to take 5 out of 5 for Soulbreaker, which gives 10% AP to a random ally. Aura of Despair. Enemies within 50 of you deal 5% less damage. Aura of Cruelty is going to be 5% lifesteal chance to your teammates. And then finally Soul Bonding, which is basically going to turn all your DPS into healing. We're also going to come up here in Damnation, take 5 out of 5 for Parting Blasphemy just for a minor damage increase. And then we're going to wrap it up with Power of the Nine Hells, which is going to further buff your group mates as well. Moving on to the boons, I'm just going to go through these fairly quickly, so if you want to pause the video to see them, please feel free. Basically, you're still going to be taking all the DPS boons, guys. Nothing really changes. So for Sharndar, and then we have Dread Ring, Icewind Dell, Underdark, Tyranny of Dragons, the Maze Engine, Elemental Evil, Storm King's Thunder, the Cloaked Ascendancy, and then finally wrapping up with the Jungles of Shult. Moving on to the companions, you're still going to be running full DPS companions. Your summoned can either be the Sellsword, the Rebel Mercenary, or the Con Artist. I am still rocking the Con Artist. You want to get your bondings to rank 14 as soon as you can. And then whatever gear you want to run. I choose to run most of my armor pen from my companion, so we are running 3-piece heroic rings. Now, if you want to boost your statistics and your gear score a little higher, you can use the +5 rings coming from mod 12. Now, I choose to run 6 brutals currently for the power crit. and you just need to balance your own statistics, guys. So if you want to run different pieces of gear on here, or different enchantments on here, that's completely up to you. You need to balance your own statistics. So as far as our actives going, I'm still going with the Siege Master. However, you can swap this out for a Fire Archon or even an Earth Archon if you choose. Now, we are still using the Owlbear Cub, even though the recent changes to it, we took a 50% DPS loss from the Owlbear Cub. However, there is nothing you can really replace it with. You still have to run it. You're going to be running Pillar of Power no matter what, so you might as well get whatever extra DPS you can get from it, unfortunately. So losing 50% DPS right off the top because of the changes, yes, it sucks very badly. However, there's no other companions that you can really substitute in here because you're going to be running Pillar of Power anyway. We're going to be using an Air Archon, as well as the Belial. We're still going to be using the Belial. Now, you can swap the Belial out for, like I said, anything else that you so choose. The Fire Archon, the Earth Archon. The Earth Archon is actually very decent on a Templock because you're basically going to be 100% HP all the time. So the Earth Archon is you gain 6% DPS when you're at full health. So that's up to you. If you want to swap out your Belial for an Earth Archon and you want to swap out your Siege Master for a Fire Archon and run the Archon bonus, that's completely up to you. Moving on to the mounts. If you're lucky enough to have a T-Rex, I suggest you use it, especially in group content, end-game content. They do stack, so when everyone pops their T-Rex, for every T-Rex that's being popped, you know, it's 10% shred on the mob. So especially for boss fights, you should be utilizing this. As far as the equipped power, we're going to be running power, obviously. Now in the stable, we're still running Protector's Camaraderie, Cavalry's Warning, Magistrate's Patience, Artificer's Persuasion, and Assassin's Covenant. Now you can swap out Magistrate Patience for Shepherd's Devotion. That's completely up to you and personal preference. So that's basically it, guys. Next, we're going to quickly talk about the powers and rotations. So we'll move on. Alrighty, guys. So very quickly, we're going to go over the powers and rotations in the same video. Normally, I make a separate video, but we're just going to toss this all into one video. So as far as your dailies, you're going to be using Brood of Hadar, as well as Tyrannical. You're going to be popping Tyrannical only on trash mobs to help clear, obviously. You're going to be spamming Brood of Hadar on bosses. Now for your at-wills, you're going to be using Hand of Blight as your secondary. Remember to get a couple Hand of Blights in there between Hellish Rebukes. And Hellish Rebuke's going to be your main. You're going to spam this non-stop. But please remember to get a couple Hand of Blights in there as well. Now, for your encounters for trash mob killing, we're going to be using Dread Theft, Fiery Bolt, and Pillar of Power. Now, this is only for trash mob clearing, guys. For your personals, you're going to be running, not Dark One's Blessing, I'm not sure where that's on. You're going to be running Flames of Empowerment and ACC as your personals, guys. Let me switch that back over here. So, All-Consuming Curse, Flames of Empowerments for your personals. So let's go a quick rotation here for just trash mobs. Like I said, it's fairly easy rotation, guys. Start off, remember to curse everything. Go ahead and dive in there with your pillar, back off, cast your Fiery Bolt, and then basically Dread Theft. Any mob that's being hit by Dread Theft is actually going to take more damage. That's why we're using Dread Theft in this rotation. Simply go ahead, rinse, and repeat. You want to maintain as much damage as you can. The more damage you do, the more healing you're going to do. You want to make sure who's ever DPSing is getting your Pillar of Power buff there. You should be standing in it, around it, etc. So basically trash mob killing is fairly easy. You want to pop a Tyrannical and just mow everything down quickly as possible. Let's back out of here real quick. Now the boss rotation is going to be up to you. Certain bosses, I like to use certain abilities. So in or Tomb of the Nine Gods, for example, I take off Fiery Bolt and put Hadar's because Hadar's does have a hidden debuff. So you want to make sure you're using Hadar's for certain. Now for the first boss, Orcus, I like to keep using Dread Theft. For the second boss, I like to use Dread Theft. However, for the final boss of Tomb of the Nine Gods, I use Killing Flames because we melt it down so quick, and there's so many mechanics that you need to shadow slip around that Dread Theft is just not an option. So you guys are going to have to make the call on what encounters you're going to want to use. But a simple boss rotation is, you'll come in here, you'll start cursing, you'll pop your pillar, go ahead and pop your T-Rex, pop your daily, go ahead pop your sigil, pop your Hadar's, and then go ahead and get Dread Theft on there. And that should maximize your buffs and debuffs, and as long as your group is in sync, you're going to chunk the boss for at least the first 10 seconds. If everyone's on sync and you're in a party chat and you're calling out everything, you're going to be able to take some major chunks within the first 10 seconds as long as everyone's proccing their stuff correctly. So like I said, you simply go in, go ahead, curse, pop your pillar, pop your Hadar's, pop your daily if it's up, pop your mount power if it's up, and then just get Dread Theft on there as soon as possible, and your DPS can do the rest. So it is a fairly simple rotation. There's nothing really much to it. That is one thing to note, is that Templock is a lot more relaxed than playing Warlock DPS specs. On the DPS specs, you have to get your rotation down 100%. You have to be paying attention. So for Templock, as long as you're hitting stuff on the Templock, you're pretty much going to be lifestealing non-stop, and no one in your group should be dying unless they get one-shot. The Templock will not obviously protect against one-shots. One-shots do happen fairly often in Tomb of the Nine Gods. So, but for the most part, like I said, if you so choose to play Templock and you enjoy playing the Temptation spec, then that, is up to you. If you want to continue to play DPS, that is up to you. I did not notice any significant difference in run times between the two specs. So, Mod 13 is going to bring some major changes into the game. However, like I said, early assumptions are already saying that probably Temptation is going to be the way of the Warlock from here on out. And like I said, which is very unfortunate, and it's a shame on Cryptic's part that they have turned what is supposed to be a DPS class into a support class. A lot of things can change from now until Mod 13. We will continue to do testing on preview and see how it goes. This is going to conclude the Temptation build for Mod 12.5. If you guys have any questions, concerns, or comment, please feel free to leave them below. And I'll see you guys in the next video.